The Congress and the American people still don't know what the president's actual goals are. And yet, we have lost 13 U.S. service members. What does the intelligence community assess Israel's goals in this war to be? And are those goals aligned with the goals of the United States?
The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government.
Do you know why Israel decided to strike that infrastructure despite the fact that the president said it should be off limits?
I wouldn't speak for Israel.
What do you guys know? We're at war. What do you guys know?
Mr. Castro.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you all for your testimony today. I want to start with a question about Iran and discuss first how the war began. Secretary Rubio told us that Israel was going to strike Iran regardless, and that doing so would have triggered Iranian retaliation against U.S. forces already in the region. And Director Ratliff, you seem to affirm that in comments just a few moments ago. So rather than tell Israel to stand down, the president joined the war. The Congress and the American people still don't know what the president's actual goals are. And yet, we have lost 13 U.S. service members. But here's what we do know. The president has said that he wants a deal. He said Iran wants to make a deal and that he's not ready because, quote, the terms aren't good enough yet. Yet, they just killed Ali Larijani, the de facto leader of Iran, who, while not a friend of the United States, would have been the person to negotiate any agreement with. The president explicitly said that the United States did not strike Iran's energy infrastructure because, in his words, having to rebuild it, quote, would take years. Yet this morning, Israel struck the South Pars gas field, the world's largest natural gas reserve, triggering Iranian attacks on Qatari gas facilities. Oil prices are up 15% in the last 24 hours. In San Antonio, my hometown, where I represent, the cost of gas has gone up nearly 40% in 3 weeks. Last night, the president said that the United States knew nothing about the attack and called on Israel to stop similar attacks on energy. Israel denies this and says that the attack was cleared by the United States. So my question is, what does the intelligence community assess Israel's goals in this war to be? And are those goals aligned with the goals of the United States?
I'm thinking carefully here about what can be said in this open setting versus a closed setting.
Are the goals aligned?
The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government.
And how do they differ?
We can see through the operations that the Israeli government has been focused on disabling the Iranian leadership and taking out several members, obviously beginning with the Ayatollah and the supreme leader. And they continue to focus on that effort.
And how does that differ from our goals?
The president has stated that his objectives are to destroy Iran's ballistic missile launching capability, their ballistic missile production capability, and their Navy, the IRGC Navy and mine-laying capability.
So the death and destruction continues. The economic cost to the United States, to Israel, to the Gulf states, and to the world continues to increase. So I want to ask you, to the best of your knowledge, do you know whether Israel is supportive of the president's call to make a deal with Iran?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know Israel's position on that.
And to what do you attribute Israel's decision to strike Iranian energy infrastructure, despite President Trump's call to keep those facilities off limits?
I don't have an answer for that.
So they ignored the president. Do you agree with that?
I'm not privy to any of their deliberations or what went into their calculus in launching this or other attacks. We are not involved with in the operational element of this. We're providing continuously on a daily basis the intelligence assessments of the events that are occurring. And
I guess I know the FBI can't because they're domestic, but can anybody else at the table provide any insight into that?
I guess I'm not sure what the question you're asking, Congressman
Well-
Castro. I guess a couple of things. The goals that the president set out are clearly defined. The D&I related those. What was not included is a goal of the U.S.
Well, Director, let me start with this. Let me start with this question. You asked what my question is. Let me reclaim my time, Director. Come on. Do you know why Israel decided to strike that infrastructure
I wouldn't-
despite the fact that the president said it should be off limits?
I wouldn't speak for Israel.
What do you guys know? We're at war. What do you guys know?
We'll have to take that for the record.
Yes,
Mr.
let's
LaHood.
take it for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to welcome the panelists here today. Today is March 19th. On April 19th, FISA goes dark. 702 goes dark. And it's been talked about many times, but up to 60% of the president's daily briefing is derived from FISA 702. And we look at the successes that we've had in protecting the homeland and also the conflicts the U.S. has been involved with, the flawless operation in Venezuela, Operation Fury in Iran, troop protection, the successes we've had on the battlefield in Ukraine, the recovery and release of the Hamas hostages in the tunnels in Israel, all derived from FISA 702. There is not a military operation that we've been involved with where FISA 702 was not, as Director Ratcliffe has said, been indispensable to the United States in the protection of our country. Director Patel has also said FISA 702 is indispensable. We're 30 days away from it going dark. Director Ratcliffe, can you clarify the President's position on an 18-month clean reauthorization and how that's going to proceed moving forward?
Congressman, thank you, and thank you for highlighting this issue. So the President is in favor of an 18-month clean reauthorization of FISA 702. And I would add to that, I'm heartened by the fact to hear that the chairman of this committee and the ranking member are in agreement with that. And I know there's bipartisan support for that, and there should be. And I know this is an important vote for you to take, but I would ask that you all consider when you do that, when you look at the fact that former DNIs and former CIA directors and former FBI directors and DIA directors and NSA directors across Republican and Democrat administrations are in support of FISA 702 in its current form. These are the people that are making the decisions to keep Americans safe. And so I wish the reauthorization was longer than 18 months, Congressman. I think that this is something that I wish you all would consider for longer than that, so that regardless of who the president is in the future, he or she would have the benefit of, as you said, a tool that's indispensable across administrations, provides more than half of the important actionable intelligence that the president and the commander-in-chief relies upon.
Thank you for that. Director Gabbard, you're supportive of the 18-month extension the president's seeking without a warrant requirement?
That is the president's position, and that is the position of the intelligence community.
And you will be supporting that, correct?
I will support the president's decision to execute this.
Correct. Thank you. Director Gabbard, we implemented 2 years ago a number of reforms, actually 56 of them, that were part of the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, RISA. And that was done in a bipartisan way. That was a reflection of what we thought were problems with FISA 702, going back during the first Trump administration and even before that. These reforms that have been put in place and that you have helped implement, I was wondering if you could talk specifically about those reforms on the cutting down of FBI agents having access to querying of FISA information, the fact that there are criminal penalties now for FBI agents that are engaged in inappropriate activity as it relates to FISA. Please tell us some of those reforms and how those have been implemented. Director Patel.
Sorry, I thought you were asking DNI.
Absolutely. So we've gone above and beyond what RISA requires since I became director 13 months ago. We not only require supervisory special agents to approve the query request of U.S. persons, we also require the general counsel's office and lawyers to come in and agree with that request before we can proceed. Also, we have we used to, before this, had a default which allowed queries when we were utilizing our system to say it automatically searches 702. You now have to actually opt in and select that box to make sure that you are intentionally doing so. On top of that, we've reduced the number of personnel at the FBI from 6,600 before I got there to 3,500 that have access to it, not that use it, but that have access to it. And we've also gone above and beyond what RISA requires in terms of if you misuse it unintentionally or recklessly. If you use it misuse it unintentionally, like you typed a name wrong in terms of spelling or whatnot, your access is suspended and be retrained. If you recklessly use it, you're immediately terminated your access forever.